Hello and welcome to another Stormbringer magazine video. Today we're having a look at episodes 3 to 6 of Stormbringer, all the contents within them. We'll have a look through the magazines, check out the models, and we've also got the subscriber bonuses for the second delivery as well, so we're going to check those out too. First of all, I want to say a massive thanks to Hachette Partworks, who sent us these free of charge to unbox and review on the site. Like with our previous Stormbringer content, I'm also going to have a full write-up over on spruesandbrews.com as well, so we'll have a bit of a deep dive into there, some more pictures, and yeah, see how the collection goes together. So I think Stormbringer's gone down pretty well. A lot of people have been super excited to get their hands on the magazine, and now that we're a couple of issues in, we're starting to get some really fun stuff. So let's have a look at what we get. First of all though, just want to have a look at the first batch of subscriber bonuses. So in your second delivery, if we can get this out of here, we get some plastic glue, which is very handy for building the models, a mould line remover. So if you've not built any miniatures before, this is basically used to scrape off the mould lines. The way that plastic kits are made, the sprue is formed by two halves of a metal mould going down, so you'll have a little seam down the edge of them. I haven't got a model to hand where I can show you that on, but basically you can run this over the kind of seam, and it will smooth it down so you haven't got that ridge when you're painting it. So that's really handy tool to have. And you also get a set of sprue clippers. So these are used to remove the pieces from your sprue, and you know what, they seem alright. They're not bad at all. Nice bit of spring to them. I'd always recommend using these rather than just snapping the parts off the sprue, because you could damage them. What I would say then is then go around with your mould line remover, tidy up those seams, and then if you've got a craft knife or an adult can help you with a craft knife, take off the kind of bits of sprue there just to tidy it up a little bit. But yeah, they look great for if you're just getting started into the hobby, you want to remove the stuff from the sprue. You can go a lot worse than that, so that's really good. So we'll move those to one side, and again, you get those if you subscribe to the magazine. But the real kind of, I guess the appeal in this one is seeing what is in the next few issues of the magazine. So let's jump straight in with issue number 3. Now the way that they send these out, obviously if you're picking them up from a news agent or something, you've probably already picked up these ones. For subscribers, you get sent 4 issues in one go. Depending on the kind of like delivery cycle of those, you probably get the last couple earlier than if you picked up them individually, but the first 2 later. So it's, you know, swings and roundabouts how they come, but it is quite cool that they all arrive in one delivery. So let's open this up and have a look at this issue and see what is inside. Now this one is a really nice issue because you get a set of 5 Vindictors, which are your infantry for your Stormcast Eternals. Now these are the same ones that were in the Dominion box, and they're really nice models. If you like your Stormcast, these are really fun to paint. I think these are my favourite Stormcast. I wasn't a fan of the old Liberators, but these guys are brilliant. There's a really gorgeous banner on here as well. If we get that out, it's one of my favourite parts from the Dominion set, the Stormcast. So obviously I've got some of these guys painted up as well, so at the end of the video I'll probably show some of these assembled to show you what they look like, or even splice them in if I get the chance. But yeah, so you get a set of 5 Vindictors, which is a really nice kit. Let's have a look at what comes within the magazine itself though. So I'm guessing we have a focus on Vindictors in this one, with it being the kit. Also we learn about the realm of beasts as well, which is cool. And this is cool, we learn about the monsters of Ghur as well. So Ghur is the current realm that the current season of Age of Sigmar kind of sits in. And they had a supplement book, Thondia, which had something similar to this, where they had kind of a bestiary on the different creatures that live in the realm. So nice to see that kind of like replicated within Stormbringer magazine. So hopefully over the course of the magazine we get a nice little collection of all the various monsters and beasties that live out in the realms. Hope we think there's some information with Vindictors, and like with the other units that we've had so far introduced over the course of the magazine, we get some nice charts to roll up some origins for them, which I think is a really nice kind of trait. It adds a bit of narrative to them, especially if you're building up the collection, be able to name all your units. Obviously we had that kind of fold out poster that came in issue 1 where you can record all this information, which is really nice, and then you've got your different achievements that you can unlock too. Really nice Stormcast name generator too, could be handy if you play any role-playing games, and quite a lot of different stuff there. No, that's really fun. We get the instructions on how to build these. They're not too difficult to go together, and they are push-fit models too, so you won't need any glue to build them. You might find sometimes that you need a little bit of glue just to keep them held in place, the shields in particular, and fixing them to the basis. But the shields popping off isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it means that you can paint them, you can get your brush into the rest of it and then push it together. Because the problem is if you build it in one go, you might find it hard to kind of get to this breastplate kind of behind the shield. So if you just pull that off, paint those details and then pop the shield back on, it will make your life a lot easier. And obviously we get some paints in the issues that we're looking at today, and presumably some painting guides too, so that's pretty fun. We get a little bit of roll-up thing about dice and how they work. So a D3 is a concept that's kind of talked about here, which is essentially roll the dice and half it and round it up to get that. The concept of re-rolling dice, again, this is all basic if you have played any GW games before, but really nice to kind of point out these concepts in a more I'd say a more user-friendly style than even the starter boxes go through. You know, it talks about cocked dice and be able to re-roll them, because it's not really fair what the result is. Is it a 5? Is it a 3? And it's always fair to make sure that the dice are fully flat. We then get a little bit of information about war scrolls as well. At the minute, obviously so far we've seen like basic rules, but this will slowly kind of teach us how these different concepts work. Hit rolls, wound rolls, save rolls, and all the special rules and stuff. We then get a bigger battle that we, using all the miniatures that we've gathered together so far. So you've got a unit and a hero on each side. And again, we've got the abstract concept of moving from circles to circles. I imagine as we go through the magazine, we'll see, I guess, more rules introduced. And once we get the movement characteristic, we've then got the way of moving around the battlefield using inches rather than using spaces. And again, a lot of people who've maybe never played the game before are used to board games or chess where you've got kind of set movement areas, and it's a little bit more, I guess, a bit more freedom once you've got proper inches and stuff involved. So I totally understand why they've used this concept for the initial issues. And again, we see little snippets of the war scrolls too. It hasn't got into all of the different statistics because it is just teaching us the rules. And again, if you are new to the hobby and you are wanting to learn the rules gradually, this is an amazing idea for doing that. So that is issue number 3. Next up we've got issue number 4, which comes with some paint and a paintbrush. So let's have a look at the brush. So, it's kind of like a brush to be fair. So you get, it's not focusing very well, but you get a kind of introductory starter brush. I think this is the brush that comes in the starter paint sets at the minute. So absolutely fine for painting your first models. You might want to upgrade to, some bigger brushes, but I believe if you're a subscriber, and even during the run of the magazine, I think you get the STC paintbrush range over the run of the magazine. Now obviously that's going to be during the course of your subscription, so you might want to pick up a couple of brushes. A bigger one, a smaller one, and a dry brush maybe should do you well for now, but you'll definitely be able to get some paint on your models using this one, so that's cool. You also get 4 paints too. So we get 2 metallics, Lead Belcher, which is a really nice metal, and Retributor Armour, which is a really, really nice gold. So they're really useful paints. You then get Cantor Blue, which is obviously used for the blue details on your Stormcast Eternals, and Uruk Flesh, which they're using for the skin of the Uruk. So obviously we've only got a couple of paints there, but what you'll be able to do is get some of those base colours down on your models and start working on them. Just like teaching the rules, I believe the magazine will be kind of introducing you to the concepts of painting and going through those details as you go along. So that's really fun. Going into the magazine itself, and again, I think we'll probably see a focus on painting on this one then. We learn about Sky Held, that's cool. Again, it looks like we're going to gradually, over the run of the magazine, build up a bit of a encyclopedia on all things Age of Sigmar, so that's pretty fun. But yeah, as suspected, this magazine's real focus is on painting models, and we've got quite a few models over the run of the magazine so far. Now there's a few optional things that you might want to pick up. So you will need something to put water in. You don't have to buy a cistern water pot, you can just use a mug or something. That's absolutely fine. Same with pallets too. Just using a paper plate or something is great. If you've got a pallet pad, that means you can just tear off the pages and throw them away when they're done. Or if you've got a wet pallet, which we've got a few videos of on the channel, that will keep your paints kind of wet and flowing. The way it works is that there's kind of moisture in the bottom of the wet palette that's drawn up into the sponge, and then that's drawn up into the sheet on top, and that keeps your kind of paints wet and keeps the paint alive for as long as possible. So obviously if you're just starting out though, absolutely fine to use a paper plate or something. What I would say is try not to use the paint straight out of the pot, because you want to thin them down a little bit. They'll be a little bit too thick if you take them straight from the pot, and you can lose some of the detail by doing that. So it's good to get into the habit of taking the paint out of the pot, thinning it down a little, and then using it from there. It also talks about some different brushes that you might want. Again, we'll get a couple more of them during the run of the magazine, but if you're eager to kind of get paint on these, there's a selection of brushes that you might want to pick up in order to do that. And then yeah, it goes through the concept of kind of using your paints, opening them up, putting it down onto them. One of the concepts to make sure you're using is multiple coats. So the paints are translucent, so you will find that it might take a couple of coats to do that. That's absolutely fine. Don't rush that though. Let the first coat dry first before you put the second coat on. And in some cases, you might even need a third coat. Now, in the magazine, they paint it directly over the models. You don't necessarily need to do this, but what you might find is that the paint won't completely adhere to the model. They might chip off over time. So what I would always recommend is get some primer. You can pick up from Games Workshop, or even Halfords and places like that will have it, and then spray them up with a colour that is complementary to what you're painting. So if you're painting something dark, you might want a black spray paint. If you're painting something white, light, a white spray paint might work well. I normally go for grey because it's in the middle of the two of them. And the good thing about using darker spray paints is that if you miss any detail in like the recesses, that will stay as a shadow. So yeah, but again, it talks about just getting these models kind of based up, and you know, the basics of painting. We talked a little bit about thinning paints earlier. We see it on here, how that works. And again, we go into a little bit more detail. At this point, we've just kind of basically painted the models all one colour. This is where we start picking out some other elements of them. And it already, rather than just the naked frames, you can see that it gives them a lot more life having the models painted up. Now obviously if you follow the magazine, you've only got a limited palette at this point, but again, that's absolutely fine. You'll build up these as the series goes up, and if you're really kind of, I guess, eager to get into painting, you can always pick up another couple of paints, but bear in mind that you do get quite a paint selection. I think it's about 30 paints over the run of the magazine, so if you are happy with kind of taking your time and gradually building up and painting up with the magazine, especially if you're new to it, that's amazing, because you'll get more techniques later on in the run. It'll probably talk about shading and the like. So yeah, really like that. And obviously the cruel boys look a little bit odd because we need some more colours. We haven't got that distinctive red colour for the shields yet, but already they'll be a lot more fun to use on the table if they've got paint on them, so that's really fun. We then get to learn some more concepts about the game itself. So rend and damage. Rend basically chips through your armour, so a higher rend value will reduce the save of the other player. And this kind of talks about that. It also talks about damage as well, because some attacks might do more than 1 damage. Certain powerful ones could do 2, 3, even 5 damage. So yeah, nice that this is taught out. And again, we get another big battle where we use all those contents, and it talks us through this, but this time we've got the concept of rend and damage to talk about. So the Cruel Boys don't have any rend, but the Stormcast themselves will do. So the Gut Rippers might not get their 5+ save all the time. And again, this is just a nice way of kind of talking through those concepts. So that is issue 4. Next up we've got issue 5, which has got a really nice exclusive model in it. So if we get these out, in here we get 6 dice. So again, they can be combined with the dice that you've got from the starter set. You've got a bigger pool of dice now because you'll find that a lot of your models might have multiple attacks. You've got bigger units using the game now, so that's really handy. You also get, if we just move it out here, a limited edition Praetor. So this model is exclusive to this magazine run. You can't get it anywhere else at the minute. And yeah, it's basically used to replace the squad leader in a unit of Praetors. But I wonder if this magazine actually includes some special rules to allow her to be used as a hero, because that would be really, really cool. But yeah, really, really nice model. I'm looking forward to building this one up. I'm a big fan of the Praetors. They're one of the nicest models that were introduced in the Dominion box. So yeah, and again, what I'll do at the end of the video is have some shots of these guys built up. And then we'll put a base over there. Looks like we get a fold out in the back of here, Defenders of the Mortal Realms. So this is quite cool. Nice little fold out thing with the bad guys and the good guys. Now again, at the minute, these magazines are all a bit loose. As the magazine run goes on, you will get some binders to put all this in. So at that point you'll be able to start separating out the different areas of the magazine too. So what do we get in this one? Looks like we get quite a bit of lore in this issue. So we learn about the realms themselves, we learn about Reforging 2 and who the Stormcast are. We get a sheet here for the Stormcast Praetors. So at the minute obviously we haven't got the unit to go with her, but we have got her valiantly leading them. Later on in the magazine run we'll get the others to join her though, so don't worry. And again, all the kind of charts and stuff to roll up their stats. Again, how to build it. Now this is the first model I believe that you've got that isn't a push fit model. So you will need to use your plastic glue on that one. Dead easy to use. I'd make sure you build it in a ventilated area because there can be some fumes off the glue. But essentially the way it works is that it will melt the plastic, and then as you push the parts together, it will dry and fuse them together, basically cementing the two pieces together, which is, you know, really good. They're not going to come apart. If you did build it with super glue, for example, you can sometimes find that the parts will snap off because the super glue is a little bit brittle compared to how this works. So just be careful when you're applying it. Now obviously the bottle that we got there comes with a kind of a needle on it, so you can have a bit more precision, making sure it goes in the right way. What you do need to be careful of, if you get it somewhere where you don't mean to do it, it will melt that plastic. So just watch fingerprints and stuff, you can kind of ruin some of the detail there, but if you just take your time, you have no issue at all. You've got a nice little guide here showing you how to do it. So yeah, she's pretty easy to put together. One thing that seems obvious, but it's nice that they call out, is that all the other models that we've built so far have got little locator pegs that let you just push the model into them. Again, this being the first kind of quote marks proper model that you've built, it just comes with a standard flat base, so just make sure you position her so that she's nicely balanced on the base. So yeah. We then get a guide on painting the Praetor Prime. So a lot of this is going to be very similar to the other Stormcast that we painted in the last issue. But obviously she's got a bit more detail. Again, there's a lot of detail here that we haven't painted yet. We've got like the plume and the interior of there, and the face colours. Again, we'll get a lot of these colours as the magazine goes on. I think we get a white and a skin colour in issue 7, and it wouldn't surprise me if we use those colours to carry on painting this model. And then we get into the next battle, and it looks like we are again going over some concepts here, learning the rules gradually using these little games. We've got a new kind of character there for the Stormcast. Now I know technically that's part of a unit, but looks like in these battles we're using her as a kind of a standalone kind of model there to add to the Stormcast side. We also learn a little bit about the different phases of the game too. So at the minute we've been using kind of abstract battles to learn what's happening, where here we go through the various phases and learn about them. And again, in kind of later issues, I suspect we'll go through each of these in turn and learn a little bit more. So, a final one that we've got in this delivery is issue 6, and this has got some cool models in it too. So we've got some reinforcements for the cool boys in this one with the hobgrots. So these are vicious little goblinoids, I guess, who are quite cruel and tricksy. They've got a few cool different builds in here, and I think if they're in the magazine we get a few of these kits, because a lot of the models in here can be built in a couple of different ways. So what you'll find when you're building them, and we'll probably see it in the magazine in a little bit, is that you will have a few spare parts that you don't need to use. You can keep hold of them because you might want them for later on, but I'm fairly certain you get another set of these later on in the magazine run. So yeah, you'll be able to build either 2 different squads of 10 or maybe a big squad of 20 you might want to build. But yeah, they're really, really nice models. Again, they're push fit, so they should be fairly straightforward to put together compared to the Praetor Prime. And finally, we'll just go through the contents of this magazine. So we learned a little bit about Uruks. Obviously, we've got the hobgrots on here too, and again, like with all the other ones introduced, we get all the various kind of names and background and stuff to roll up, which is really cool. We learn how to build them, and again, it's quite easy to do this. All the parts numbered, it'll list how they go together. These are push fit kits as well, so you don't need to use any glue. You can use a little bit if you do want to just hold them in place though. That sometimes can make it a little bit easier. And then, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you will have some parts that you don't use on these, because basically a lot of them can be built in 2 different ways, and I suspect when we get the second set later on, we'll use the other bits in the kit to build the alternate builds for them, so you'll have a bit of variety in your unit, which is always fun. We then learn how to paint the hobgrots. Now again, with this one, like with the other Crawl Boys, we'll be getting the base colours down on the model and then painting in some of the metallic detail. Obviously, as we go further on, we'll get some washes, we'll get some other colours, and there'll be concepts that'll be introduced as the magazine goes on. So the cool thing about the hobgrots is they've got ranged attacks. They throw like grenades and stuff at their opponents. So in this issue, we learn about the shooting phase and how that works too. So again, the range and stuff again is quite abstract in here, but it teaches you the concept of how that works, which is important for somebody new to the game. And again, we've got a battle now using quite a few models now on the Crawl Boy side. Again, learning about how those ranged attacks work, how that works in conjunction with combat, how all that happens. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that is issue 6. Now looking ahead to the future, in issue 7 we get some Corax white paint and some Catachan flesh. So again, you'll be able to use that to add some more detail to the models that we've already got, and I suspect it will talk through painting those steps in there. And then in issue 8 we get Lord Imperator and a Griffhound. So that's another really cool model. We also get a brush too. So like I say, if you are patient and you want to kind of wait for the various paintbrushes to come, you will get those over the course of the magazine. But the magazine will introduce them as and when you need them, and realistically, if this is your first time painting models, use that starter brush and then gradually pick up those techniques and follow it in the magazine. But yeah, that was a look at issues 3 to 6 of Stormbringer magazine. We'll be following the entire run of the magazine here on Sprues and Brews. What we're also going to do, Dave's also collecting this, and he's going to be working on the Stormcast. I'm going to be working on the Cruel Boys and the destruction side of the magazine. So we're going to be doing some battles, and what we might do as well is do some of these introductory battles too, because I think it's really nice of kind of teaching the rules of Age of Sigmar and how it works. So yeah, stay tuned to the site for that. If you have enjoyed this video, why not give us a follow. We do lots of unboxings and battle reports and stuff like this. And again, check out spruesandbrews.com for full write-ups and articles and pictures of all the contents on there. So until next time, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.